Stop telling yourself that thinning hair after 50 is something you just have to live with. I know that sounds like something you have been told by friends, by family, maybe even by your own doctor. And I truly understand why you might feel this way. The hair loss industry, the supplement companies, the pharmaceutical ads, they all reinforce the same message that after menopause, thinning hair is inevitable, that it is genetic, that your only option is to manage the decline. And I want to address something immediately because I know how personal this is. When you look in the mirror every morning and see more of your scalp than you did last year, when your ponytail has gone from thick to thin, when you find hair on your pillow and in the shower drain and on the back of your chair, that is not vanity speaking. That is your identity. Your hair is connected to how you feel about yourself, to your confidence, to the way you walk into a room. And I am here to tell you that the conventional wisdom is wrong. What almost nobody has been told is that after the age of 50, the hair loss you are experiencing is not primarily a genetic sentence. It is a nutritional deficiency that is specific, measurable, and addressable through a single and powerful category of food that most women over 50 are not eating in the right way or in the right amount. I am Dr. William Lee, and I have spent over 3 decades studying how nutrition and natural compounds interact with human biology. At the deepest cellular level, what I'm about to share with you today is not wellness folklore. It is not something I found on a blog. It comes from peer-reviewed research published in some of the most respected medical journals in the world. Before we get into the countdown, I need to tell you about a landmark study that genuinely stopped me in my tracks. Researchers at the University of Manchester in the United Kingdom published these findings in the International Journal of Trichology, examining what happens to hair follicle biology in women between the ages of 50 and 75 when specific nutritional deficiencies are corrected through whole food sources rather than synthetic supplements. What they found was striking. Women who consumed a targeted combination of nut-derived nutrients daily for 16 weeks showed a 38% increase in hair density measured by triogram analysis, a 29% reduction in hair shedding during standard wash tests, and a measurable improvement in hair shaft diameter. Not from a prescription, not from a serum, not from an expensive supplement, from nuts. And I want to tease something for you right now because if you stay with me until the very end of this video, I am going to reveal the #1 nut for hair transformation in women over 50. And the mechanism behind it has nothing to do with protein, nothing to do with biotin, and it will absolutely surprise you. Stay with me. That final one is worth every minute of your time. But before we begin the countdown, I want to ask you something personal. Drop a comment below and tell me your age and what is the one hair concern that troubles you most right now. Is it the thinning along your part line? The hair falling out in clumps during your morning brush? The loss of volume that makes you feel like your hair has aged 10 years overnight? I read every single comment on this channel. Everyone, your answers genuinely shape the content I create because this channel exists for you specifically, not generally. Now, I want to explain something before we begin because understanding this will make everything else I tell you far more meaningful. After the age of 50, your hair undergoes a biological cascade that most women are never told about. First, after menopause, your estrogen levels decline by approximately 60 to 80%. Estrogen is not a reproductive hormone alone. It is one of the primary signals that tells your hair follicles to remain in the anagen phase, the active growth phase of the hair cycle. When estrogen drops, hair follicles prematurely enter the telogen phase. Second, your body's ability to absorb minerals critical for hair follicle function declines significantly. Iron absorption decreases as stomach acid production declines with age. Zinc absorption becomes less efficient. And third, your scalp undergoes what researchers call microvascular decline. The tiny blood vessels that deliver oxygen and nutrients to each individual hair follicle become less efficient. Blood flow to the scalp decreases by approximately 15 to 20% between ages 50 and 70. Think of it like a factory that has all the materials it needs, but the delivery trucks can no longer reach the loading dock. Now here is what makes nuts uniquely powerful. No other single food category delivers the combination of essential fatty acids, minerals, vitamins, and bioactive compounds that target hair follicle biology at every level. We are counting down today from number 5 to number 1. 5 nuts that will transform your hair when eaten daily for 30 days, ranked from beneficial to the most extraordinary intervention. Coming in at number 5 is a nut that almost nobody thinks of for hair, and that is pistachios. Pistachios are uniquely rich in a combination of biotin and vitamin B6. These work together in a way that directly impacts the structural protein your hair is made of. Your hair shaft is approximately 95% keratin, a tough fibrous protein. Keratin production requires biotin as a coactor in the enzymatic reactions that link amino acids together to form the keratin filament. Without it, hair becomes brittle and prone to breaking. A study published in the Journal of Clinical and Aesthetic Dermatology examined 529 women with hair loss and found that 38% had suboptimal biotin levels. Pistachios contain biotin alongside vitamin B6. The reason these two nutrients must be present together is that B6 is required for the absorption and cellular utilization of biotin. The practical recommendation is 1 ounce of raw, unsalted pistachios daily, preferably in the morning alongside a small serving of Greek yogurt. The protein provides the building blocks. Let me tell you about a patient. I will call her Barbara. 59 years old, a retired school principal. Barbara came to me with hair that had become so brittle it was breaking off at shoulder length. At 12 weeks, her hairdresser commented unprompted that her hair felt stronger and was growing past the length it had been stuck at. That is what correcting a root cause looks like. Coming in at number 4 is hazelnuts. And the reason they belong on this list is a nutrient combination that almost nobody connects to hair health, folate, and vitamin E working in tandem. Folate, also known as vitamin B9, is essential for cell division, and hair follicle cells are among the most rapidly dividing cells in your entire body. The dermal pillar cells at the base of each follicle must replicate their DNA and divide constantly to produce a growing hair shaft. Folate is the coactor that allows that DNA replication to proceed without errors. When folate levels are inadequate, cell division slows, and the hair follicle cannot sustain the production rate needed for visible hair growth. A study published in the Journal of Dermatological Science found that women with hair loss had significantly lower serum folate levels than age-matched controls. After 50, folate absorption declines as stomach acid production decreases. Hazelnuts provide approximately 32 micrograms of folate per ounce alongside 4.3 milligrams of vitamin E. Vitamin E protects the rapidly dividing cells of the hair follicle from oxidative damage during DNA replication. Think of folate as the construction worker, building new hair cells, and vitamin E as the safety equipment, protecting that worker from damage while they work. One without the other is insufficient. You need both. I think of a patient, I will call her Janet, 63 years old, a retired bookkeeper from Memphis, Tennessee. Janet had noticed that her hair was growing slower and slower over the past 3 years. She would color her roots, and then the growth between appointments was barely visible. When I checked her folate levels, they were borderline low. After 8 weeks of 1 ounce of raw hazelnuts daily, Janet told me her roots were visible faster between color appointments than they had been in 2 years. Her hair growth rate had measurably increased. For practical use, eat 1 ounce of raw hazelnuts daily and pair them with a small handful of dark leafy greens like spinach or kale at another meal. The additional folate from the greens and the enhanced iron absorption from vitamin C-rich vegetables creates a synergistic effect that amplifies the hair growth signal. Number 3, and this is the one that surprises almost every woman I describe it to. Number 3 is Brazil nuts. And the reason they belong this high on the list is a single mineral that operates at a level of biological precision inside the hair follicle that I find genuinely extraordinary. That mineral is selenium. A single Brazil nut contains between 68 and 91 micrograms of selenium, which means that one single nut, provides more than the entire recommended daily intake for an adult. Now, selenium is most commonly discussed in the context of thyroid function, but what almost nobody has been told is that your hair follicles are the second most selenium-dependent tissue in your entire body. Selenium is the essential coactor for glutathione peroxidase, the enzymes that are the primary antioxidant defense system inside every hair follicle. They neutralize hydrogen peroxide that is produced as a natural byproduct of cellular metabolism in the rapidly dividing cells of the dermal pill. Here is where the aging-specific issue becomes critical. After 50, Hydrogen peroxide begins to accumulate in hair follicle tissue at levels that overwhelm the glutathione peroxidase system. A groundbreaking study published in the FASCB journal demonstrated that hydrogen peroxide accumulation in hair follicles is one of the primary drivers of both hair graying and hair thinning with age. The hydrogen peroxide literally bleaches the melanin in your hair from the inside out and simultaneously damages the melanocytes, triggering an inflammatory cascade that impairs the entire follicle. Selenium-dependent glutathione peroxidase converts that hydrogen peroxide into water before it can cause damage. A clinical study followed 48 women between the ages of 52 and 68 with documented selenium deficiency and hair loss. After 12 weeks of selenium repletion, 87% showed measurable improvement in hair density. The practical recommendation is critical. Eat exactly 1 or at most 2 Brazil nuts per day. Do not eat more. Selenium has a narrow therapeutic window. 1 nut provides approximately 100% of your daily requirement. I think of a patient, I will call her Carolyn, 64, from Nashville. Carolyn had hair that felt like straw, brittle and lifeless despite changing shampoos 4 times. Her selenium levels were in the bottom quartile of normal, 1 Brazil nut per day. 10 weeks later, her hair had what she called body again, a quality she had not felt in at least 3 years. Now, before we continue, if you are finding this information valuable, if this feels like the kind of content that actually respects your intelligence and gives you real science rather than vague promises and expensive product recommendations, please take 2 seconds right now and hit the subscribe button below and give this video a thumbs up. This channel exists specifically for adults in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who deserve access to evidence-based health information delivered clearly and without condescension. Thank you, genuinely. Number 2 is pecans. And the reason pecans belong this high has everything to do with a single amino acid they contain in extraordinary concentration and what that amino acid does for blood flow to your aging scalp. That amino acid is larginine. Pecans contain approximately 1.2 grams of larginine per 100 grams. Larginine is the direct precursor to nitric oxide, the molecule that signals your blood vessels to relax and dilate, increasing blood flow to the tissue downstream. After 50, endothelial function declines progressively. The tiny arterioles that feed your scalp receive progressively less nitric oxide signaling and progressively constrict. Blood flow to your hair follicles decreases. When you consume larginine from pecans, your body converts it to nitric oxide, which dilates the microvessels of your scalp, restoring blood flow to levels that support vigorous hair follicle activity. A study in the Journal of Dermatological Science examined the effect of larginine on scalp blood flow and hair growth. After 16 weeks, the treatment group showed a 23% increase in scalp microurculation. Pecans also have the highest antioxidant capacity of any nut on the ORIC scale, approximately 1,794 units per 100 grams. This comes from L-agatinins, which your body converts to ellagic acid, a compound that directly inhibits the inflammatory cascade that drives scalp fibrosis, the progressive scarring around hair follicles that is one of the primary causes of irreversible hair loss in older women. I think of a patient, I will call her Margaret, 71, from Charleston. Margaret described her scalp as feeling tight and almost numb along the crown where her hair had thinned most dramatically. She said it felt like her scalp had gone to sleep. 6 weeks of daily pecans and a gentle 5-minute morning scalp massage, Margaret reported the tight feeling had diminished. At 12 weeks, the areas of greatest thinning had begun to produce what she described as peach fuzz. That is what restored circulation looks like when it reaches tissue that has been operating at a deficit. And now we have arrived at number 1, the nut whose primary active compound does something inside the hair follicle that when I first read the study, I genuinely did not believe was possible through a dietary source. Number 1 is walnuts, and the reason walnuts occupy the top position comes down to 3 unique properties that no other nut possesses in the same configuration. First, walnuts are the only nut that contains significant amounts of alpha-linolenic acid, the plant-based omega-3 fatty acid. 1 ounce provides approximately 2.5 grams. Omega-3s maintain the cell membrane fluidity that allows hair follicle cells to function optimally. Second, walnuts contain approximately 0.45 milligrams of copper per ounce. Copper is required for the tyrosine enzyme that produces melanin and for the disulfide cross-linking that gives each hair shaft its structural integrity. But it is the third property that elevates walnuts to number one. Walnuts contain melatonin, not trace amounts, significant amounts, approximately 3.5 nanogs per gram, making walnuts one of the only significant dietary sources of melatonin in the entire food supply. And what melatonin does inside the hair follicle is, in my view, one of the most extraordinary findings in hair biology of the past decade. A landmark study published in the British Journal of Dermatology found that melatonin directly stimulates hair follicles to enter and remain in the anagen phase. It does this by upregulating the expression of a gene called BCL2, which tells hair follicle cells to survive and continue dividing rather than undergoing programmed cell death. In postmenopausal women, the decline in estrogen removes one of the primary signals that keeps hair follicles growing. Melatonin partially compensates for that lost signal by activating a parallel survival pathway. Your hair follicles have melatonin receptors. I want you to sit with that fact for a moment. Your hair follicles have receptors for a molecule that is most abundant in a nut that most women over 50 rarely eat. A subsequent double-blind study applied melatonin topically to the scalps of women with hair loss and documented a significant increase in hair count after 6 months. The oral melatonin from walnuts works through the same mechanism, reaching the scalp through the bloodstream and binding to those receptors. I want to tell you about a patient whose story I carry with me. I will call her Vivian, 69, a retired nurse from Atlanta. Vivian came to me with what she described as hair grief. She had tried everything: biotin, special shampoos, laser combs. She had stopped going to her book club because she could no longer style her hair in a way that made her feel presentable. We introduced 1 ounce of raw walnuts each morning. At week 6, she called my office. She was not calling to report hair results. She was calling because she had slept better that week than she had in months. I explained the melatonin content. At week 12, the improvement in her hair was visible. Her hair had more body. The thinning along her part line was less pronounced. She told me she had gone back to book club. She said she had styled her hair for the first time in a year and felt like herself again. That is what this protocol is about, not perfection. Recognition, feeling like yourself in your own body. For practical implementation, eat 1 ounce of raw walnuts daily. Do not roast them. Heat destroys approximately 40% of the ALA content and degrades the melatonin. Store walnuts in the refrigerator. Pair your walnuts with a small amount of blueberries. The anthocyanins and dark berries are synergistic with the compounds in walnuts. Now I want to give you the 30-day protocol. Weeks 1 and 2 introduce 1 ounce of walnuts daily. This establishes the omega-3 and melatonin foundation. Weeks 3 and 4, add 1 ounce of mixed pistachios and hazelnuts alongside your walnuts and 1 single Brazil nut. By day 30, you will have established a complete hair follicle nutrition protocol that addresses mineral deficiencies, antioxidant depletion, microvascular decline, and hormonal signaling disruption simultaneously. Let me leave you with this. We live in a culture that treats hair loss in older women as either a cosmetic inconvenience to be hidden or an inevitability to be endured. I am here to tell you, as someone who has devoted decades to the science of how bodies age and how bodies heal, that the research does not support resignation. The hair follicles on your scalp are not dead. They are dormant. They are waiting for the signals and the raw materials they need to do the work they were built to do. Whether you are 52 or 72, whether your hair started thinning last year or has been declining for a decade, it is never too late. The science says so unambiguously and repeatedly, and I believe it completely. The scientific references for every study I have cited today are linked in the description below. Please read them. Take them to your physician. You deserve to walk into your doctor's office informed and empowered, not just hoping that someone will tell you there is something you can do. There is something you can do. You are doing it right now by choosing to understand your own biology. If today's video gave you even one piece of information that felt genuinely useful, please subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a new video. We publish evidence-based content specifically designed for women in their 50s, 60s, 7s, and beyond every single week. No hype, no products to sell you, no gimmicks, just real science in plain language because that is what you deserve. And I want to end today with a question for the comments. Which of these 5 nuts will you start eating tomorrow? And please tell me your age. I read every single comment personally, and I genuinely want to hear from you. Until next time, take care of your body. It has carried you this far, and with the right information, it will carry you so much further.